Ready to go. Welcome to Time Zones and Time Meters. A very special episode this time because we got Imaginaerium with us on as guests. Clive Nolan and Laura Piazzai. Piazzai. My Italian is way worse than my English. Yeah, so we were here to talk. Well, basically, I mean, we had this album that you came with last year, and we thought that it's such a cool product. We got lots of questions, and especially concept albums. We thought we would talk about concept albums in general as well. So, well, yeah, where do you even start with such a thing? Because I mean, how is it with these concept albums? What do you?
Yeah, where did it all
Where
where
does
did
it
it all
begin the
begin for
process?
you guys? So did you know each other before you, like I presume you met each other somewhere. Where did you guys meet and how did it sort of unfold?
Oh, go on. Laura likes that story most.
Yes, and I know that he likes to joke on this. Then it is a crazy Italian contacting him. Basically, one day my friend said, "What with your voice? Why don't you call Clive Nolan? I'm sure that he will like it." I said, "I'm sure he will not, and I'm sure it's going to be impossible to talk to him." Well, I just tried and popped in a little message. "Hello, Mr. Clive." Do you remember that? Mr. Clive. How polite was I? Mr. Clive. And
I
actually,
was literally, I was literally strapped to a chair at the time, so I had no choice but to see this message because I'd had some kind of quite serious eye operation, and part of the treatment was that I had to be upright in a chair for a period of time. It's called staying in pose, and basically it's because the gas bubble in my eye had to press upwards, so it was a kind of question of gravity, and that's where I was with one eye completely covered, and just me sitting in a chair in the lounge in front of the television, and this thing pops up. So she chose the perfect time to contact me because I had nowhere to go. So
this
that was
marvelous
She
thing
thought,
popped up.
yeah.
this is my chance. She thought, yeah.
Well, but she wouldn't have known. That's the funny thing, because I mean,
Right.
90% of the time when people say, "Hey, hi, Clive, I'm a singer," I usually just say, "That's lovely," and
That's lovely.
move on. But I had nothing better to do than to reply to this message, so that was handy. But she did eventually send me some material, and I thought, oh, yeah, okay, she can sing. That's good, and it sort of developed from there, didn't it?
Yeah,
It
cool.
did.
Well, so
So
I'm
everything
English.
started
I prefer
10
the
years.
understatement.
No, the very cool thing, I have to tell you this because uh, at that time I wasn't into British, which I am now. But so I literally I was reading his message, and he said, "You have a terrific voice." Well, terrific in Italian means that you have a really crappy voice. So
Ah.
I said, "Oh
That's
God,
what I meant.
nobody told me this yet." Really? So I was a bit, "Why did you even ask me?" I said, and sorry, I was Googling it. Terrific. And then I understood that I was actually the contrary of crap. And I was like,
But what do you mean that there's an Italian word
now
that
that
is
you
the
said,
same,
you
or
say,
You
uh,
probably thought it meant terrible.
yes, terrible. So when I say terrificante in Italian, that means that you are really up. So I said, "No,
all right.
God, I will disappear from Earth now because this is not." I said, "Can it really be that I'm so bad? Because I don't really think I'm so bad." And well, the beginning was that. Um, a little horror moment for me, and probably, yeah, he discovered someone. Did you?
That was a
So
horror moment for me too.
for you to, yes, the horror story had still to start. Poor
Now we
you.
tried once I established Laura could sing. I thought it was an interesting idea. We talked for a bit, and we thought, well, what about if we did a kind of a set of songs, maybe an album that was based on songs I'd written over the past 1,000 years. So we chose between us.
Okay.
Laura chose some that she liked. I chose some, and we produced an album called From the Outside In, which is really just reinterpretations of songs that I'd written in the past. And it became sort of clear to me at that stage that, she was probably worthy of some original material. And things kind of developed from that sort of point onwards, but that was the beginning. And at that stage, I can't remember. Well, I don't think we'd actually met until did you actually come? Yeah, you did in the end. She came over to record the vocals for that. That was the first. So we'd already gone a fair way down the road before we ever actually met up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
this is what year? What year are we talking about here?
Well, this is all 19, maybe 18.
Yeah.
I can't remember when
Well,
the eye operation. 17, I'll believe you.
I came over to sing with Paul Manzi at the Cheltenham Theatre. So we're talking about 10 years ago, almost. Yeah.
Wow.
9 and more. Yeah. You're still alive, aren't you?
So for those people at home that might not have heard of you before, Clive, you've done some work with Pendragon, and you've written a fair bit of music, and you're a sort of a producer as well. Is that correct? Can you let us know?
Yeah, I mean, I've done lots of different projects. I'm a keyboard player primarily, as far as most people are concerned, and I play in Pendragon, as you said, and Arena, which is a band I formed with ex-Marillion guy Mick Pointer. Both of those bands have been going for a long time now, 30. So Pendragon's been going for 40 years, not with me, but certainly that. Arena, 30 years with me. And then I've also been involved in writing and producing quite a few different projects. So I mean, all sorts of different things. I worked with Oliver Wakeman on a couple of albums and a few various things, and I also write musicals, which is what's coming out very soon, the third one of the Alchemy musicals. So I do a lot of that stuff. I do sing as well. People probably would know me less for that, but I see myself primarily as a writer.
Yeah, cool.
And how is it with because then you decided to write some original material that was meant for Laura, and what stage does the concept come in? Because first,
well, actually, you see, the thing is that was exactly. The Medici album came first, and I had nothing to do with that initially. Again, Laura she's quite good at her timing, because what happened was we did The Outside In. I floated off into all the stuff that I was supposed to be doing, and assumed that would be that. And then I invited Laura over to a performance in Cheltenham, which is not far from where I live. We were doing one of my musicals, or at least a collection of stuff from my musicals, and I'd written a song that I thought might suit her very well. She came over and sang it, but out of that came her project with Eric Bouillette, which was going to be this Imaginaerium thing. At that stage, I had nothing to do with it. And to be honest, didn't really have time or inclination to get involved. But then COVID turned up. So all of a sudden, all the tours were cancelled. Everything else was sort of, literally put on freeze. And then Eric contacted me and said, look, would you be interested in maybe getting involved in this? And I was thinking, well, I ain't got nothing else to do in a way. I've got to write some albums, but so that kind of worked out very well. The timing was perfect. At any other time, and I probably would have said no. Originally, I did say no, and then this turned up. So I said, okay, well, what do you want? And he said, well, we need a bit more of a kind of a formulation around this idea of the Medici family. And perhaps lyrics. So I started looking into it, and of course it just grabbed my attention, and by 24 hours later I'd given him a whole concept and a plan of the album, and I'd done my typical thing, take over, which is not always a good thing, but luckily he was very happy with it. Laura seemed happy with it as well, and that was where I started. And then he sort of said, would you be interested in perhaps helping a bit with the music? And then he sent me a few ideas, and then I wrote an album.
Yeah,
so
right.
Kind of
so Laura,
out of that.
So Laura, what was your first impressions of it when you got the concept? What did you think about that? Like, obviously it was sent through to you.
Well, obviously, with the Rise of Medici, I was very, very impressed because this man who wrote the concept in like literally, I think over one night, who was like, wow. I woke up in the morning, so I said, my God, I called you and you said, yes, I will start and let's see what comes out. And you had concept the day after. So we were both intrigued, Eric and I. And at that point, I just wanted to see what he came up with. And the first song was Duty of Love. Duty of Love is a very intriguing song that gives the, let's say, it's the opening with Festina Lenta to this Rise of Medici. And it's a very powerful song, really born to be inside of me, you know, because this man writes songs that are like dresses for me. I got goosebumps when I think about this, because I really need to feel the songs. I love to feel the music, to be into the song, and to be the character that I'm interpreting. You know, that's what that's really my passion. And he seems to get what I love to say: queens, gods, and all this kind of things, and powerful Vikings or warriors. That's really probably my physic is in that direction, so my voice follows that. And I was so happy. And the more he developed it, the more intriguing it became. And we really started this journey with joy, friendship, and happiness. And it was really fantastic when we ended up in having such a great album that we really enjoy still today. So now 3 years, so it's quite some time.
Yeah. And I mean, then actually Eric is unfortunately no longer with us.
No.
And then you were in a bit of a doubt of whether to
transitioning
period.
Yes, it was.
Well, after the Medici album, it just, when Eric died, it just seemed to me that the project was done, because it was his project, Imaginaerium. I remember having quite a long conversation about the principles upon which he should build this thing. And I remember saying to, look, you know, if you make Imaginaerium is your project, therefore, every time you make an album, you can decide who's going to be involved. It's not a lineup like a band where you've got to go out of your way to keep it all in one, you know, unit. So, yeah, I think he was, you know, that made sense to him. So when he died, it just seemed like, well, okay, it was, you know, that's that. And people were sort of saying, well, why don't you do another Imaginaerium album? And I was thinking, well, if I do it, then it's another Clive Nolan album. It's, you know, what's the difference between that and a load of the other projects that I've done? Yeah. So for quite a while, I sort of resisted the idea. And in fact, we decided to do another outside in thing, like where Laura would reinterpret. Sorry?
Like the first album, because they don't have
the first, yeah. So I started digging out songs again, so did Laura, and we started down that path. And then this whole thing, the whole change, again, one of these things that spins on a coin. I had a dream, and basically in this dream I was on stage, and it was such a strong atmosphere. It's really hard to explain, but it was just like being there. It was a very realistic dream, and I was on stage. I was playing. There was a cellist, and Laura was singing. And it wasn't so much that I could hear the music, but I could see it. And when I woke up, it was such a strong image in my head that I thought, this is a song. And Laura had been going on about the fact that if we do another Outside In album, please write one song, just one song on there that's original. So I thought, all right, well, this might be the one. So that day I wrote a song. It was called All There Is to See. And it was like I'd taken what I'd experienced in the dream, and I wrote it. It was like piano, cello, voice, and I sent it to her, and she liked it. So we added that song into the sort of Outside In collection that we had. And then off the back of that, something else kind of, there was like a leftover idea in my head. So I wrote another song, and I thought, okay, well, that's all right. We can have two songs, and then the rest of it is old stuff. So we had the two songs. And then a friend of ours, Magda, she said, you should write an No, it's not an Imaginarium album. It's a. But then I wrote a third song. And now this album that we originally planned was starting to tip very, very slightly. And I just, for some reason, I just kept writing. And gradually we had half an album's worth of new material. And I just thought, this is stupid. Might as well get rid of all the old material and write the whole album. At which point it occurred to me that something had happened. And this is the really important part. Over in the corner of my studio, I'm sitting in the studio, over in the corner there's a load of hooks. And on those hooks, I have hats, metaphorical hats.
Right.
So when I'm writing for Arena, I have the Arena hat. When I'm writing for the Viking album stuff, I have that hat. If I'm writing a musical, I have that hat. And all of a sudden, sitting in the corner there was an Imaginarium hat. I could see how to write for Imaginarium that wasn't the other projects.
Yeah.
It's really important to me. If I can do that, then it makes sense to me, and then I'm able to kind of do something with it. And now I can see it, and this album developed much more smoothly at that stage because I wasn't resisting it. And I could, there's this love of history that we both share, and that drove some of the kind of essential elements of what makes Imaginarium. Obviously, with Medici, for example, with Boudica on the next one. And the album sort of developed from there, and Imaginarium was sort of reborn, if you like.
Yeah.
And then let's say there was a leftover, sorry, Josh, there was a leftover that I tell you about, and it was Dorian Gray, which is a very old song that I think you wrote like 30 years ago, wasn't it, Clive? And that song,
time, yeah.
Yeah, Shadowland. So that's a project that doesn't exist nowadays. So I digged it out and I said, I love this song. I really want to reinterpret this song and make it mine. And if you can play the piano on it from scratch, we do it. Of course, I had to take out the pitch and everything. And that was really, really a song that fitted into the whole concept, because the concept here is in the title, Siege. So we decided to keep it, but obviously we couldn't keep it into the main album. So that's why we moved it as an opening to the bonus album. And we thought, well, this interpretation was very good for that. So we said, let's leave it here, right? Fine. We loved it both, and we couldn't let it out.
Right. And what is that then? Do you look in old history books, or do you how do you transfer the? Do you have everything in your head? Is it just?
Well, I've always been fascinated by history. It's funny, at school I kind of wasn't.
Yeah.
At school when it was
really
a subject,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a resistance to hate history lessons. But as I got older, I became absolutely fascinated. I mean, I have particular periods of time. Victorian, obviously, for me is one of the periods. Viking now as well. But I have, I've always had a fascination by how the world clicks itself together and does what it does. So I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I certainly have an awareness of history. So it wasn't that hard to kind of bring that into the elements. I mean, Boadicea was a fascinating subject, always has been. I didn't need to do a lot of research to know what I was trying to write about for something like that.
Yeah.
And also, of course, because I listen, I say I listen because thanks to this eye operation, I tend to listen to audiobooks now rather than read them so much.
Yeah.
And so I have a hunger for, I devour loads of these, and I mostly listen to historical fiction.
Yeah.
That is my favorite subject. That and things about zombies.
Clive, what are your favorite historical fiction books?
Yeah, we got to get a few recommendations. I spent a lot of time on Audible, so let's go.
Do you?
What do we got?
Okay. All right, hang on a second. I'm going to have a very quick look because I always forget I've been listening to a series of Viking stories by a guy called Griff Hosker, and he Yeah, he does a good story. And funnily enough, I'm working on another. Basically, I wrote a thing called Song of the Wildlands, which is what I call my Viking album. And I'm working on a second one, a companion to that at the moment. And the great thing about listening to this series of books is it didn't take me a lot of effort to write the lyrics, because I'm full of all those buzzwords, you know, the words that you're going to get: Vikings, you're going to get ash, you're
Yeah.
going to get long ships, you're going to get ice, you're going to get blood, flags, banners. It's all those kind of words that you sort of, you know, they're just on the tip of your tongue if you listen to this stuff.
Yeah.
And so the series, he's sort of the Viking Blood and Blade saga. That's what he's been writing.
Yeah, right.
But
Cool.
there's Zombie Fallout series by Mark Tufo as well. Very good. And oh god, there's loads. Eagles of the Empire, Roman.
I'm actually told
Yeah.
that was fantastic.
Tons.
Yeah, I've been
But
told that was fantastic.
yeah, anyway. So it's not hard to put together an album that covers history.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's also my favorite genre of books. And I said it was like I have, yeah.
Big fan of zombies.
Love it.
Here they come.
You're the one painting them.
Sorry?
Are you
One in the
painting
middle.
them in the wee hours? Yeah, yeah.
I don't paint. No.
It's also fun with these concept albums because I remember there was a thing that really made it click with, or like made it magical with prog when I was younger, to just that a universe opens up when you listen to an album, right? And now I have little kids and I'm trying to brainwash them a little bit, and this one worked particularly well with my 7-year-old daughter. Some things flew over her head, luckily, but you know, just the thing that you have this book with you and you know experience the story. It gets more than just.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very.
So that was a great something to brainwash your kids into being prog heads. Hopefully, we'll see.
We're educating your kids.
Stories. One of the great things that attracted me to progressive rock, I think, was the fact that it's very much about storytelling.
Yeah.
There's more so. I mean, a pop song, great, but it's not so much a story in that sense. Or if it is, it's a very, very small one. Progressive rock, because it works on slightly larger landscapes, it's got time to tell stories, and I've always been about, you know, I love storytelling. That's a very important part, which is why I like musicals and opera. I like storytelling.
Yeah.
And concept albums are a great opportunity again to kind of do that. You can have a narrative that crosses over a whole album, or you can have a concept, as in an idea, like in our case, The Siege, where all the songs approach this idea, but from different places. So, yeah.
It's very modern in the concept of Siege, but he wrote it using historical elements, which makes this album so appealing. I think that the basic difference between, for example, the mentioned pop and progressive rock is that in prog you have the freedom. You have no schemes, so you can do basically what you like and how you like it, and you have no, even in singing, you are so free to do whatever, to stand out from other people. You know that. You hear them and you say, well, it's not really what I would have done. But in pop, there is a market that tells you exactly how to sing, what to do, how to use this note, how to. No, that's nothing for us. That's nothing for us, really.
But that's a very interesting. That's a very interesting thing that we haven't touched about with your background, Laura, because you do not come from a prog. Like you have not played prog for 40 years, like Clive has.
No, not at all. I mean,
different.
Dance, yes, dance music, so house music, and really nothing. I worked with very important Italian record labels like Time Records and Digit International, and so I was really on another planet. And then I started with soul. That's why when I sing, you hear actually all my body into a song, because I put a lot of soul into it and emotions. I think this is a natural thing for me, just going into something I'm so passionate. I'm so passionate. Even when I talk about something that we have done together, I'm so passionate about it that I really feel like I'm into that song and I forget about everything around me. It's fantastic. It's really fantastic.
Well, I think that's like an important thing with a vocalist to actually be, actually kind of like an actor, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
That you
Yeah.
that's what I
embody.
say.
Yeah, connected to the
Singing is
message.
acting.
Yeah.
Yes, singing is acting. And it's acting with you can, but then I have to tell you one thing. You can be a super good singer, have a super good voice, but I was lucky to have Clive. Then I expect one compliment from you, my darling. But it's true. The fact is this, that thanks to the fact that I met this man,
Terrific, you will say.
terrific. I got this terrific experience to grow as a singer because he taught me phrasing, the importance of phrasing, which I now can hear in the pop songs. But why do they do this? Why do they sing that? Why do they? You know, phrasing is such an important thing when you speak, when you sing, and that changes everything. That changes everything in a sentence that you sing. When you, if you don't sing with the correct phrasing, you change the meaning of it. And he may grow so much. When I look back on the first demos I sent to him just to get that terrific comment, well, actually, the first one was Great Gig in the Sky, my version of Great Gig in the Sky. And he said, you have a terrific voice. And then he said, I sent it over to him, like 10 demos. And if I go back to them, I'm such a different singer, such a different singer. That's fantastic. He gives me the freedom to move because I need my freedom. I need to be me. When I am into a song, I really need people to feel my passion and my emotions and give life to a character, That's the most important thing. If you don't know, for example, in Immortal Light, Macaria, you have to know that is the demigoddess and bad, mean one. You need to feel the let's say the feeling of being passionate but still so evil.
So Clive, it's actually to be very curious to hear like how you would explain that as well. So obviously we've got Laura's version of why it's been so impactful for her journey. I'm curious about like how would you describe that? Like what were you trying to communicate to her just in your words?
Well, any singer needs to understand things that very often they don't when they come here. I mean, Laura's actually got a pretty, you know, she still knows what she needs to do. But the one thing that is always something you can improve on is like, for example, phrasing.
Yes.
Frank Sinatra is a perfect example. The guy just knew how to phrase and make this thing so liquid. And that's always been very important to me. People often say that I'm when I bring vocalists into the studio, I never let them breathe. And to some extent there is an element of truth in there, but that's because I like phrases to go across the line rather than da diddle a diddle a da da diddle a diddle a da da diddle a da da. You know, it's just and basically I like these things to cross over and to, you know, to kind of take the phrasing where it would go naturally if we were talking. So that's a very important thing, and also bringing character into with every singer that sings. You know, I say this, that, you know, some singers are quite vanilla. Now that doesn't mean to say they can't sing. That doesn't mean to say they don't have a nice voice, but they'll be much more suited to being in a choir or a chorus.
Yep.
Some singers have got more character or are able to bring character to what they do, this acting element, which is really important. If I see in my case, when I'm writing musicals, I got to have singers who are going to bring something to the roles, and they've got to have a little bit of an acting ability in there as well, although I think most singers do to some extent. Those sort of things, bringing character to a line. And this is perhaps where we differ. You know, when I'm working with Laura, I would never expect to have a pop song in the sense that I hear them. When I hear a pop song, I hear some very nicely sung lines, brilliantly sung perhaps, but there's no real personality in the sense that
Yeah,
they're
like
not really,
connection.
they're
Yeah.
not word painting.
Mm.
And you know, nor should they perhaps. It's not. I'm not saying that that's how it should be. I'm just saying in my little world, that's how I like it to be. And so that's why I work well with Laura, because she won't let go of something until she's squeezed everything out of it that she can, which is a great attitude to have. So all I had to do was open a few more doorways for her, and she would go running through them quite happily, and that was perfect.
Yeah, what a great compliment. And for those that are listening at home as well, it could be worth maybe looking at this album and being able to like look specifically for the phrasing, look specifically for these concepts and ideas. I know I'm going to re-listen to this straight after we're finished here, and I want to be looking for that too. So I'll see whether or not I think Laura delivered on those levels. You see what I mean? Cool.
Thank you.
Uh,
One song that was very intriguing to sing was a song that Josh and Simon, I have to tell you this, I got Boudica literally the day before I had to catch my flight to go and record. And I said, I got a new song, really? No, I mean Footprints and Boudica. I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's and I started to listen to it. So while I was doing the suitcase, and then stop, I didn't touch it anymore. I started to record in the UK, and then I said, listen, Clive, I go upstairs and I try to get Boudica. And I went upstairs and the song just flew into me, and I just went down. It's time to record Boudica. I am Boudica, and that's what happened. So there you can listen to the struggle that I imagined she could have, but the strength at the same time. And then when she speaks about all the struggles, that when she saw that the Romans were on the way to defeat her, then you really can feel it in the slow part when I really give this the anger, and I say the thorn into my side and all these things. That's the whole thing, you know, because you can sing, you can give accents or you cannot give accents. That's up to you. But it's the same thing. I can say that, oh, there's a motorbike over there. You can say there's a motorbike over there. The tone is the same, but obviously, you know, a bit boring in the second time. Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, so is this also your first rock project, or why did you what made you step over to the rock side of things, to the dark side?
Well, let's say that I never actually had any closures. You know, I never closed my mind to anything, and I love rock, obviously. And I was intrigued by this freedom that rock has, and this niche that you. I had never been interested in you know, oh, I want to be a pop star. I want to be up there, and even in dance music, you know, I could have done my career in that way, but I didn't like it. It was so vanilla, we said. So it wasn't so vanilla, so boring, nothing. I mean, I had to be like, I felt like a sterilized singer, you know, and that's when I really thought, no, I want something more. And my path came across Arena, and it happens to be my favorite rock band, and my favorite band in general, the only one that I listen to actually out of my music and so. And then I said, oh my God, I like this, the writing and everything. I was intrigued by the lyrics because I can feel a specific kind of words that I hear are related to Clive. And I said, okay, he will never consider me, so that's a closed chapter. And that's why my friend said, no, try to write to him. He's very open. So, okay, let's try it. I didn't believe in it, but everything started from there. And I'm so happy. I would never go back to boring pop, never in my life. No. Imaginarium is my project, our project. And I feel it like, I wear it. It's something, it's a concept now. It's a concept in itself. Imaginarium is my concept of life.
Awesome.
I was also a bit curious, Clive, since since it really makes a difference with having a, you know, a nice book,
Yeah.
reading along, looking at the pictures, you know, there's always something that is very attractive with physical copies.
Yeah.
And I know, I'm guessing it's not your call, Clive, since Arena is on streaming, but Pendragon isn't. I'm curious to pick your brains about what are your thoughts, since you've also been in this business for so long and seen how it changes with everything that you're not per se always in magazines, but on YouTube, for example.
Well, the
But indeed,
the
that
trouble the
it's on
trouble with
streaming.
streaming, like Spotify, is the fact that as an artist, you don't really make any money from it. And you know, I know it's a dirty subject to discuss, but you know, some of us, if we're going to be musicians as a career, that's kind of important. And I don't generally support streaming, but I fully accept that it exists. And the reason it's, you know, it's often a decision made by the record label, not by the artist at the level that we're at. So that's why you'll find some Arena, whereas Nick Barrett in Pendragon has more control over that, so he doesn't do it. But on the other hand, it's sort of advertising as well, so you've got to kind of balance up the theory on that. But it's a very frustrating experience to, you know, the paycheck comes through from Spotify. Congratulations, you had 100,000, you know, listens, and here's £3.33. Okay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Sad
you think
reality.
about it, per stream, 0.07 of a pence. That's ridiculous. So that's why it doesn't appeal to me. But I mean, you know, it's the lifeblood for some people. It's advertising. So you know, I'm not stupid enough to think I can do anything to change stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, you just have to learn to work with it. It's like AI. It's you know, I can go online and save myself the last month I've just spent writing this new album by pressing a button on AI and get the job done for me. Um, and it'll sound fantastic. But until you start to pick it apart, and then you see the
Yeah,
holes in it. Um,
and
yeah,
you want the context. If we're doing an interview, then it has no purpose, right? Because you just push the button,
Yeah.
and it's
yeah.
at least I
Well,
for one love to know the story behind an album and who is on
yeah.
it.
The story behind it was I went online and pressed a button. Yeah,
Yeah,
not so
yeah,
good.
yeah. Short
I
articles.
think. I mean, the thing is, AI. It's useful. It's great. You know, if you need to get a picture done for your blog or something, it's fantastic. But ultimately, AI is copy and paste. So in other words, it's never going to have an original idea. Everything it's going to provide you with is familiar in a strange, vague kind of way. So if you ask it to write, I don't know, if you're a blues musician and you go on and you make AI write you some blues songs, well, they're going to sound very familiar because it's going to be taking stuff that exists already, plastering it together into certain formulas, which are accepted formulas. So you're not going to be surprised. You might think, wow, that sounds really good, because it's all done in a sort of almost perfect isn't quite the right word, but you know, but it's not, it's never going to have us, it's never really going to surprise you. The great thing about writers and artists is they can still do that. So you've got to make your choices. But you know, you can't argue with the fact that if somebody's trying to put their new album together and they're doing it in their front room, if they can go online and get AI to create them a lovely front cover, I mean, or they pay an artist £3,000 to get it. I mean, you know, you can't compete with that. But again, I'm not stupid. It's not going to go away. So you've got to sort of work with it. I think people will, for example, with what I write, will accept that I've sat there and struggled and written it, and there'll be something in there for them. If they care about that kind of thing, then that's what it's worth. If they don't, then they're probably not
That's
listening to my stuff anyway.
that's what I was going to say. It's their call to do it, right? Like I'm going to go looking
Yeah,
for people. I'm going to be looking for humanity. I'm going to be looking for like connection
Yeah.
and character and all of the things that a writer and an artist is going to bring. So I think you know, you just have to, I think we have to get through this section of time where people start jumping on AI until we realize what's really important
You're right.
is our
And
humanity.
interestingly, yeah, in about 50 years' time, someone's going to say, "Hey guys, I just wrote this and I did it all myself." And they're
Oh
going to say,
my God. Yeah.
"Wow, what an original idea. Hey, let's all do that." And it'll go round again.
Yeah.
How
History in
fucking
general always
retro.
goes in circles all the time. I knew when the pandemic arrived, I was talking to some friends and I said, this is what's going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. It won't be 2 months, it'll be 2 years, etc., etc., etc. And they said, how do you know all that? I said, it's easy. You just look through history and you see what happens. And even though we've got better technology now, the principles of that stuff, they're all still the same. We're still human beings.
Yeah.
We haven't developed as much as we like to think. And but I think that, eventually AI will, if you like, not exactly go out of fashion, but will find its place in our sort of world. I wrote a song called Movie Drone many years ago for Arena, which was a kind of prediction of where we would be going with all this stuff. And I'd never thought that I'd actually lived long enough to actually find myself living it. But here we are. So there we go.
Here we are in the dystopia. Yeah,
So
I think so. Yeah.
so do you have maybe if we could start with like Laura, do you have a favorite concept album or something that really like sits close to your heart that you wanted to talk about today, or even just one that maybe people don't know about that you love and wanted to give a bit of access to?
I do have, but it might sound a bit, yeah, well, weird, but actually, my favorite concept album is called Siege. And it's written by a great composer that is an expert in concept albums. Truly, that's my favorite concept album. I have to say it. Can I say it? It's
Of course you can. Of
our own,
course you can.
our own, our
You've
own.
obviously put your heart and soul into it, and it's something
Yes,
pretty special for you.
yes.
So that's a great one. Clive, what would you pick if you had to pick something that's just you think is fantastic?
Well, I mean, there are the obvious ones in my life that I've discovered. The kind of, I've always been a fan of Rick Wakeman, and Journey to the Center of the Earth was a fan, something I discovered early on that sort of took me down a path. The Wall by Pink Floyd took me down a path. But if, in many ways, I would say something, perhaps, I don't know, this is probably slightly left of field, but I'll say it anyway. I often think one of the first concept albums, and I have to admit that it's a piece of music rather than an album, but nevertheless, is Symphonie Fantastique by Berlioz. And the reason I say that is because when he wrote it, he broke loads of walls down and he told a story. It's a narrative going across the symphony. He uses themes to depict characters. He uses extended themes to kind of tell the story of what's going on in this crazy sort of hellscape that he creates. He made a bigger orchestra to do it. People used to, in fact, the newspapers used to do cartoons about him, making fun of him because of his ridiculously large orchestras and extra brass sections and masses of percussion. But in itself, you could argue that this piece written, I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly when, but certainly late-ish. No, mid.
1830s.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably about the 1840s. maybe 1840. Basically, I think that in many ways that's the first concept album, and certainly as a child, one of the things I discovered, and it sort of, again, that narrative, that being able to see the music, which I have to be able to do to write, I've got to be able to see it, and that was a perfect example of what set me on that path. So there you go.
I have a natural follow-up question here because I promised to give through a question from a friend to you who's been a fan for a long time, and she asks if you have a favorite piece of classical music. This is maybe a contender. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is certainly a contender. I mean, my sort of favorite composer is Beethoven, partly because of who he was, what he was, how he did what he did with his, obviously being deaf and, well, partly deaf. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've got a lot of classical music that I like, so it'd be very hard to. I mean, we'll stick with this one, I think, because in many ways. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what. Now I'll go one further. When I was a kid, I wanted to, when you're at a certain age, you want to have your own album. You want to buy an album, and I remember
Yeah.
saving up the pocket money, and I wanted to buy an album. And the album I bought, which I'd been looking at in the record shop. My parents, yes, we'll get you. Was called Dance Macabre, and what it was it was vinyl, of course, and it was an album of slightly macabre pieces of classical music. So you had Dance Macabre, Night on a Bare Mountain, Tam O'Shanter, these sort of, ghost stories, if you like. And Dance Macabre by Saint-Saëns, another French composer actually, was just such a colourful piece of music. Fantastic. It told a story. Again, you could just close your eyes, hear the music, you can see the devil dancing around the graveyard. And again, it just sort of made me think, I want to do that. I want to write that. I want to sort of produce something like that. I even used Dance Macabre as a template when I put together a scene in the first Alchemy musical. There's a scene called Highgate at the end of Act 1. And I used Dance Macabre as my sort of template of how I sort of shaped the orchestra and what they did, because it was such a big orchestra. It was such a big influence. I thought I'd give it a nod. So there you go. Let's take that Dance Macabre.
That's awesome. This has turned out to be one of my favorite episodes we've ever done.
Yeah.
Just both of your passion that you're clearly conveying, like, is so contagious. It's so cool. It makes me want to explore everything that both of you.
I can't see the point of doing something like we do. If it wasn't passion, because it's not, it's not worth a lot of money. It's not like a bit, there are things we could do. I could be a plumber.
Yeah,
great.
If you're passionate about shit,
I do this because it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's what keeps me up at night sometimes, thinking, like the album I'm writing at the moment. The reason I keep looking that way when I talk about it is I have whenever I write albums, I generally have like a big space, and I start writing notes or post-it notes and things, and then gradually making order out of them. So over there, I've got a list of these tracks that are going to be on the album, and gradually there are ticks and little clues, like in brackets choir or a solo name, or just information. And at the moment, it's a very exciting moment in the process, because I've only got one song left to write. So then the whole album will be written horizontally. So when I write horizontally. In other words, I'm writing structure and sort of lyric, and and then I go back over the whole thing and I do the vertical work to some extent, a bit more of the orchestration, instrumentation, detail. So it's an exciting point. I've got about 4 minutes left to write on this album. So, but yeah, unfortunately, that's not going to make me millions of pounds, but I still want to do it.
But I don't know. I'd argue that this is where sort of like the good part of life is.
I mean, of course, well, the kind of music that we appreciate is, of course, made with passion, and otherwise, you will never do prog unless you're passionate about it, I think, or just this level of complex music is just a waste of time.
But can I say something, Simon? Actually, because I have to tell you this was what brought me to write to you two guys, because I felt your passion. I felt that you two guys are so good in you really captured my interest. Of course, with the fact that I got the link from this Italian guy, and I said, "Oh," and you started to talk about me and because you had chosen that song, and I was like, "Oh my God, I have to contact them," because it's not that you are appealed by everybody, There's not sometimes you feel, I've seen people, bloggers or even YouTubers is they call them, that they are not that appealing, because I say it's even disturbing sometimes, really disturbing. And I said, "Oh, I like those two guys. I really like them." And I said, then you said I could hear your accent, and I said, "This guy's from Sweden. His name must be Simon," and I have to write it. And so this is how everything. So it's the same for us too. I mean, I think you are really passionate, and you show this passion, you guys. We appreciate that.
And just before we run out of time completely, I would love just to mention The Mortal Light.
I wanted to ask, what do you got in the pipeline? Please
Well,
Yeah.
this
Tell us all about
this
it.
is album. This album's out on the 15th of February. It's the third musical I've written in what I call the Alchemy series, which is this steampunk Victorian universe. And I should point out that when I work with Laura, I don't just do Imaginarium. So she is the baddie in this.
Oh,
She's a character called Macaria, and she has the exact voice you need for someone who's going to be evil.
I can imagine she does a
But
great job with that. Yeah.
she does a very good job in being a sort of a demi-goddess in this particular thing. So basically, this is out very soon. I get that it's a musical. I get that it's not progressive rock in the purest sense, but it's still written by me. So, and you've got Alchemy, you've got King's Ransom, and now you've got The Mortal Light. So, and again, another chance to hear Laura doing music that I've written, because she is an important part of this story. In fact, that's her leaning over my character on the front cover. You can see that sort of thing going on there.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
nice.
I can send you some information about it if that helps.
Yeah,
But
please
anyway,
do.
and of course, Laura and I did a Christmas song, which came out at the end of last year. So,
love
you know,
it.
What's it
we
called?
stay
Come on.
busy.
What's it
The
called?
Christmas
gift.
song, The
The
Gift.
gift.
The Gift. I wrote it a long time ago, and it sort of existed in some form. And then Laura said, "Why don't we, do it?" And we redid it completely, and it's been turned into this sort of epic Christmas song. And it came out on a compilation of Christmas songs from some American company at the end of last year. And the first thing I did after Christmas, right, I got through Christmas. I was ill, because you are, aren't you? I mean, that's what happens. I was ill for about a week, and I crawled out of bed and I came down to the studio, and I knew I had to start writing this next Viking album. But before I could start that, I thought, there's something I've got to do here.
Yeah.
And I wrote another Christmas song, and I sent it to Laura. I said, I accidentally wrote this. Can we do this? I think she's going to record it soon. So I think we might
And
have
if I
another
can add,
Christmas song for next year.
Awesome.
And then she
I
said,
mean,
well, now we need a Christmas album. I'm
of
thinking,
course,
hello.
we have so
We'll see.
many things. I mean, the interview could go on for like 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 hours, because we have so many
They won't
things.
thank you for that. They won't thank you for that.
Yeah, well, they have a lot of. They don't have to think about the episodes, next 10 episodes at least. I mean, we have enough material.
Well, fortunately, there is such a thing as an edit button, so I'm sure you'll be able to manage.
Yeah.
We're not very
gonna
good with
have
that
to
one.
add a little bit, but so basically, I mean, you're finishing up the Viking album, at least composing wise, and also
Yeah, it's I'm
this.
writing it. I hope in another. Where are we? Where are we beginning? Yeah, by the end of February, I should have the album done, and that includes, the orchestration, all the rest of it. Then, at which point we'll start to record it.
Awesome.
We're going to perform it here, because in my back garden I built a Viking mead hall. So, in other words, like a Viking longhouse, you see them in all those films and TV
Yeah.
shows and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Well, we have I moved here about 4 years ago, and it's a big old Victorian pile. Basically, it's falling down, which is why we could afford it. But it's very nice. But what it has is a walled garden, quite a traditional thing to have in a Victorian house. But in that walled garden, the previous owners had put a swimming pool, which was a complete joke. We're in England. How often do you get to use an outdoor swimming pool in England? 3 days a year, probably. So, and it was absolutely knackered as well. So we filled it in. 260 tons of mud later, I'm standing on the top of the swimming pool, and I'm just looking around this walled garden. There were some friends there, and I said, do you know what we need? I said, what? We need a Viking mead hall. They laughed, but they're not laughing now, because we built it. It's a small venue.
You have to send us photos. You have to send us photos.
Oh, absolutely. It's a small venue. It's a thing of beauty. Imaginarium performed there at the last show. We performed the very first sort of band performance. Well, it wasn't band, but it was semi-band. So I put shows on there. So somewhere down the line, somewhere down the line, you should come to one of these. It's like a 2-day event. Usually we do musical events. It's kind of like, because I don't like touring. Less and less I like touring. So I'm thinking, well, make people come here instead.
Bring them to you, yeah. Oh, cool.
That works. So, yeah. So hopefully this new album I'm writing, this new Viking album, will perform it later in the year at an event here, basically.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Laura, do you have anything in the future that he has not mentioned?
No, well, I am waiting for him to finish the Viking album, which I can't be in for the fact that I can't be singing with other people, actually. So I'm waiting for another album that he's going to write after, and then the new Imaginaerium. So I'm waiting for my turn. I can't wait. But the fact is this, that I could go on forever, because you know also what's the important thing to say, that when we perform or when we remake songs even, they sound so different. This is the very basic thing. We together, we create something unique, that because I have my own personality, he knows it, he knows that he can't resist when I start to do some, he never knows what comes out from another version of a song when I go into it, because I step into that. So who knows what comes out? For sure, a Christmas album. For sure, the new Imaginarium. And this, I don't know, it's up to Clive to tell you about his next thing that he's going to write. Say it, because it's worth it already to create this expectation, Clive, for the next thing you're going to write, which is
I really can't say at the moment. It will be. I think if it's what I hope to write, then it'll be the. But if it's not that one, then it'll be another one.
He's leaving us with a Clive hanger.
Look, next album, if I can write it, and if I can find a record company to support it and all the rest of it, what I can tell you is it will be a concept album. Surprise, surprise. And I think there might be a small part for Laura in there as well. So
that's awesome.
Thanks for the small part.
Yeah.
Is there a little less? Is it easier to get through doing a concept album nowadays than 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
No.
Whereas, like,
I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't. I don't. It depends what you mean. I mean, in the olden days with vinyl only, your albums used to be about 42 minutes long. That was the first thing. 42 minutes, sort of 21 minutes aside maximum. So 40 minutes an album. Nowadays, your album's got to be 55 to 60 minutes. Otherwise, people feel ripped off. So, I mean, you've got to write a lot more for your money. People expect things to be much more excitingly packaged. So instead of your basic sort of, simple cover and that, that's it. It's got to be, big booklet, lots of artwork, blah, 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 blah. The whole process is a lot higher in expectation nowadays, especially if you're going to persuade people not to download, but to actually, pay money for something like this. It's got to be a really nice package, which is fine. But that's why I prefer not to bring out loads of albums all the time. I want every album I do to be an event, to feel like an event, to feel like people want to pick it up and read the lyrics and learn about it. If we're churning out an album every year, I think it just, there's that feeling of like, buses coming every 5 minutes. Oh, I'll get the one after this one. I'll miss this one out, get the next one.
For sure.
So I think, like the next Imaginarium one, we already know what it's going to be, at least probably. And I already start to have this kind of, I'm starting to see it. And like I tell you, when I can see the music, I can write the music. So, that should be a very interesting album when the moment comes. But let's promote Siege a little further first, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And at least it answers my last question, I think, and that is that there will be more Imaginarium.
I hope so. Yes, I mean that's certainly the intention, and we've got some gigs coming up later in the year where we're actually going to be able to take this out to the public. We're going to have an acoustic set that we'll do. Unplugged, and we're also going to have a full band later in the year as well. So, this is the beginning of our activity rather than the end. So, absolutely, we'll need another album just to fill the set.
For those that have tuned in at home, they've got through the whole episode. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Clive. That was great. Laura, that was great. You guys are so clearly passionate.
Lovely.
I
thought Laura was terrific.
I thought both of you were terrific. And so, Simon, sorry, I always call you Simon because I'm Australian, but in saying that, you were terrific too, bud. Just so you know.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, likewise.
But no, this has been such an awesome episode. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for just coming along, and thanks for watching at home too. Definitely check out their stuff. Hopefully this has been some great insight, and it'll give you some ideas about sort of the work and effort and thought processes behind the designing of these kinds of things too. So look, it's been awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming along. That's right.
Gosh, Simon, thank you. You were great, terrific, both.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. I'll hopefully we'll be in touch soon. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you.